So, nuclear advocates, nuclear advocacy. I've watched a lot of people present their opinions and their side of nuclear power, its efficacy, and what it can and can't do for us. I do not debate the power output of those reactors and what it's done for the future of this nation, where it brought us, and what it does. The nation consumes energy at an unbelievable rate, and that's the big story. The resources to get that energy and the people that own that energy and sell it to us. So, and I realize I'm talking real serious as if we can do shit about this, but if you don't know about it, how do you approach it? How do you fix something that you're not even sure it's supposed to exist? Well, science doesn't care. It can teach us. It's our tool to point in the direction that we need to. So, why this little bit? This is a nuclear presenter's rant. Everybody that presents the pros of nuclear ignores any of the harm. If a nuclear proponent says nobody got hurt, zero risk, nothing happened, I would argue they're lying. They have not gone back and looked at the results. Fukushima, initial responders died of radiation deaths some years after they were exposed. To not tie those two incidents together is pretty feeble. To ignore that is poor reporting. To not tell all of the story. To blow over this and just step on rabbit holes that should be discussed because you don't know how to discuss them. You don't even know what they are or the risks associated with them. Yet you're selling nuclear energy to, I'm going to call it an uneducated audience. Your presentations are shallow. You only cover the good aspects, the good things you've found. If you go to the nuclear sources that we have, these global organizations, not a state, this isn't a state you're poking at. This is the globe. This is the science of our planet. It's common knowledge among scientists at the higher levels of sciencing, right? Because this is what the hell we do. So keep presenting shallow, very shallow. Keep presenting just that pretty energy coming out of that reactor and none of the outcomes, none of the long-term issues that face this industry, that have faced it since we began. We do not know how to clean these materials up, period. If you want examples, if you need me to hand you examples, then you haven't looked at the history, the decadal history of the Savannah River site. And it has over 35 tons of the globe's plutonium stored there because it was a deal worked out under President Obama and the NNSA. And I'm sure you all heard about the tons of plutonium shipped across the oceans and deposited in a sweet little place between South Carolina and North Carolina. 35 tons of the deadliest material known to man. Plutonium. The plutonium is manufactured in every commercial reactor. It is part of the fuel cycle. If you haven't looked at the fuel cycle, which is a decadal issue from the moment the earth mining begins, the chemical processing, the mechanical separations to purify the uranium from tons of earth into one little speck of energy. That distillation process is a massive chemical, mechanical separation that has destroyed the nations that they are around. These mining sites are hidden off in nowhere. You don't go there. You don't give a shit. You can't get there because there's probably a fence around it. But that tribe whose land was taken from them for these adventures, whose genetic history is being destroyed by hanging out near this stuff, that's what happens. That's the fact of what happens. You can go find hundreds of little studies proving that fact. You won't find global studies doing that because the industry will not let those types of studies that matter, that show the truth, the generational truth of nuclear dangers. How bad they are? Let's talk about that once we find out. Those hundreds of isotopes that last from seconds to days to weeks to months to billions of years, and their decay properties absolutely matter. It is a matter of statistics people don't understand. It's 1 in 10 in your neighborhood's going to get cancer, and we're going to scratch our heads and wonder why. We're going to wonder why the sciences are building better bombs instead of building a better future for us. Another rant. If you don't know, if you don't speak to the depth of what nuclear history is, then shame on you. Shame on you. Shame.